All right. If we have not met, I'm Drew McClellan from Agency Management Institute. This is Susan Beyer from Audience Audit. And for the last decade, we have partnered with our friends at Dynata and to put together research that allows us to talk about a very specific subject related to some aspect of our work. 8 of the 10 years, we have talked to clients who hire agencies, and twice we've turned the telescope on agency employees. This year, we did talk to clients, and we had a very specific and very targeted question. So we've seen for the last 9 months or so how many agencies are struggling to land new clients. And so what we wanted to explore was the idea of what should agencies be doing to get their existing clients to give them more money and bigger budget. And so we very specifically asked questions around how, when, and where do you give your agency more money? And so, sometimes when we do this research, we don't have a lot of good news to share. Clients can be pretty brutal sometimes in their honesty, their candor. But actually in this study, there's a lot of great takeaways, and many of them won't cost you a dime, are not going to be super time intensive, but seem to make a huge difference about whether or not we're going to get more revenue from our existing clients. So with that, here's the way today is going to work. Susan's going to literally walk you through every question, some much quicker than others. Please interrupt and ask questions. I'll be keeping an eye on the chat window, and I know Susan will as well. And we'll have some time at the end for questions as well. And then we are going to point out to you some of the takeaways all through this research as we're talking about it. And again, we'll talk through some of that stuff at the end. If you have to leave at any point in time, or if you're watching this, then you already know we recorded it. I'm recording it now, and we'll have that for you sometime late next week for you to share with your team. There's a lot of implications around account service folks in this one as well. So if you are an agency owner, this would be a good one to share with your account team, and I think everybody in the shop, but particularly those folks. All right, so Susan, let's jump in, and then folks, please interrupt and ask questions as we go.
Perfect. Thanks, Drew. Nice to see everybody here. What you're seeing on the screen is a live interactive visualization of all of this data, and Drew is going to send you a link to this. It's completely free. Any of your team can go through and look at the data and explore it just as we're doing. So you will be getting that. So as Drew said, very specific question on this survey. It was fielded in January. We have just over 500 agency client respondents from around the US, and we targeted them for sort of the small to mid-size agency target, less than 500 million in annual revenue and less than 20 million in marketing budget on the client side. And they all work with at least one agency. We have very good distribution across the country and regionally. And the nice thing about the number of respondents we have in this study is it gives us a very high confidence level on the study. Gold standard for social research like this is plus or minus 5 percentage points at 95%, and we're actually below that at 4.2 plus or minus margin of error. So we have tasted enough of the soup to know it's in the whole pot with respect to how clients are thinking about this question right now. So you can use this data confidently in your planning for your agency. So if you've followed the Agency Edge before, you will know, but the core of our work is really understanding how people are thinking, how clients are thinking, not just what their organizations look like in terms of revenue or the size of their in-house staff. We do gather all of that information, but what we really want to know is how clients think about spending more with their agencies, how they feel about their current agencies, and how that is affecting their decisions. So what you're going to see is a segmentation that is based solely on ratings of these attitudinal statements that we put in the survey. There's more than 40 of them in this case. And everybody in the survey has to rate them. I disagree completely with that. I agree completely with that, something in the middle. And that alone goes into the analysis, which is completely organic. We don't predetermine these buckets. Drew and I don't sit there and go, well, I think we have these kind of clients and these and these. The data tells us what we have, how many segments, what defines them, and how big they are. And what you're going to see are groups of people that are different from everybody else in the survey, because each group shares a specific set of attitudes. Whether they realize it or not, they're connected for them. The more they agree with one, the more they agree with the others. And it gives us a really rich look at the mindset of these folks. So we're going to start with that, and then we'll use that as a lens to look through all the other data that we got in the study. So this year we found 3 segments, which is not unusual. I think, Drew, we're usually around 3 or 4. Sometimes we've had 5. Sometimes they're very evenly distributed. This year there is one segment, as you can see, staff prioritizers, that is 43% of the sample. So that's a big chunk of the folks in the study, and that is going to be important as you see what defines those folks. Relationship builders are at 30% and saving seekers at 26%. You want to say something, Drew?
Yeah, one of the things that we have done in the past is, we've looked at these segments, and there was always a silver lining to each segment. There were good things about each one. It was really more about understanding which ones were which ones had which attitudes, and in many cases, sort of being able to identify whether it's your prospect or your existing clients, which bucket they fell into so you could understand them better. I think this is the first study where we're looking at these 3 distinctual attitudinal groups and going, one of these is not worth a lot of energy or effort on your part. And as you will see throughout us sharing the data, it really is the saving seekers. They suck. They all they care about is
not as human beings, Drew.
No, I'm sure they're lovely human beings.
Just as clients.
Right.
Okay.
As clients, though, all they're really interested in doing is trimming budget, kind of tightening the screws on their agency. They don't really value the relationship. It's very transactional to them, and it's all about getting as much as they can for as little as they can. Yeah. So for very few agencies, that sounds like an ideal client relationship. And so what you're going to see is us focusing on the relationship builders and the staff prioritizers, because that's where we think there's opportunity. You may very well have a savings seeker already on your client portfolio, and if so, I'm sorry. But you'll recognize them pretty quickly, and they're probably not the ones, as you pick up hints and tips on what to do to get more billing out of your existing clients. When you see the description of the savings seekers and you're like, oh, I know who that is on our roster, what we're saying is that's going to be a bit of a brick wall, even with the best ideas that are coming out of this study, to get them to open up their wallets. So maybe don't invest as much time on them as you would the other folks.
Yep, absolutely.
And I'm sure lovely human beings.
Lovely people, I'm sure. So let's look at the attitudes that define each of these groups, so you'll have a kind of a sense of where these people are coming from. Relationship builders, we have seen before, Drew, consistently over the last 10 years, the client segment that looks like this. They want long, strong, stable relationships with their agencies. They really trust and value their agencies and listen to them. So what you're seeing here is the list of attitudes that define them. We're going to review those in a second. Here's that scale. Disagree completely as a 1, agree completely as a 6. This is the midline. And these buttons represent the average rating for this group. And you can see the other groups behind them. So you're getting 2 pieces of information. What attitudes connect these people together because they link them? And how strongly do they agree with those attitudes? So in the case of the relationship builders, listen to the things that they both link together and also agree with to a greater extent in almost every case than other groups, than other clients in our study. My organization wants to work with agencies we can build a strong relationship with over time. Agencies that help us improve our marketing expertise. For this group, being tutored by the agency, having their team learn from their agency is a strong component of their relationship. Collaboration between our in-house marketing employees and agencies leads to better outcomes. My organization trusts the guidance and recommendations our agencies provide us. We are interested in any new services our agencies can offer us. Working with agencies has helped my organization reach new levels of success. We have the flexibility to adjust our agency spending. Prioritizing consistent relationships with agencies is the best way to achieve marketing goals. Agencies with high level communication skills are easy to work with. This is going to come up over and over in this study. Maintaining strategic partnerships is a top priority for my organization. The budget for agencies should be flexible to allow us to take advantage of additional opportunities, and working with agencies saves my organization money. So as you can see, just really bullish on agencies, believe that they do better with them than without them, and are really looking for not only advice and guidance, but education and training for their own people in terms of how to do everything better.
These are folks, when you think of sort of the ideal client, these are the folks that want you at the decision-making table throughout the process. They want your input at the strategy level. They want your help executing. They want your help measuring and deciding what's successful and where to go next. They want you all day in all of the ways, and they really value your depth of expertise in a broad sense, but both a strategic and an execution sense. So again, when you sort of imagine in your head the ideal client, these folks sound pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, our biggest group, staff prioritizers, 43%. Unlike the relationship builders, these folks actually feel like their in-house team has a great deal of expertise that's relative to what they're trying to do, and they want their agency to learn from their in-house team and work very collaboratively, not just with the marketing staff, but just generally with the organization operationally. My organization needs agencies that can work as quickly as possible. True experts in our space are hard to find among agencies. It's challenging to find an agency that truly understands my organization's wants, needs, and goals. And this is another thread that's going to run through this. And in particular for these people, this understanding is hard for them to find. And it's very, very valuable for them. My organization wants our agencies to be more integrated into our business operations. I wish our agencies would spend more time getting to know our organization's employees personally. My organization's marketing employees have more expertise than any agency we've worked with. We like to switch from agency to agency, so we always have a fresh approach. Now, that's not strong agreement there, but it's stronger than everybody else's, and it is linked to these other attitudes. And coordination between our in-house marketing employees and agencies makes everything more complicated. This is the only segment that is agreeing with that statement to any extent. So that's a real pain point for them. They're trying to collaborate with agencies, and they feel like it makes things harder, not easier.
I think this puts a spotlight on kind of an Achilles heel for a lot of agencies. It's challenging to work with an in-house team. And I think some agency folks feel like they have to prove that they are better, more sophisticated, smarter. And I think if you listen to how your employees talk about your clients, you may pick up on signals that maybe we don't give the in-house team as much respect as perhaps we should. And even if we feel it, I think sometimes the water cooler chat, if you will, sort of denigrates that. And I think it's a way to make us feel good, is to make them look not as bright or not as knowledgeable or whatever. And with this segment, and remember, this is the biggest segment, they don't want to tolerate that. They are over that sort of attitude. They expect us to come in with a lot of respect and a very much in a collaborative attitude of, let's figure this out together. Everybody's going to bring their smarts and we're going to be better for it. So again, mindful of the attitude, not only explicitly, but implicitly that we communicate to clients.
For sure. Okay, savings seekers. This is the segment that we're not very bullish on. So look at the attitudes that are connected for this group. My organization is always looking for ways to reduce the amount we spend with our marketing agencies. We will only work with agencies if their pricing is competitive. We could handle our marketing needs in-house if necessary. Economic conditions have made it hard to justify the cost of working with an agency. And I love this. This is the kicker, Drew. My organization only wants to hear how our agencies can save us money, not spend more. How can you whittle our budget down? Those are the only conversations that they want to have.
Yeah, again, we won't spend a lot of time on these folks because it's such an uphill battle to try and even make them happy, let alone to try and get more money out of them. And I think you're going to work very hard to get that money in. So our recommendation is you just don't invest a lot of energy chasing after what's going to be so difficult to accomplish.
Luckily, they're only 26% of the distribution we found. Okay, there are also attitudes that didn't end up, Drew, defining particular segments, and here they are. My organization will only sign on for more work with agencies if they have proven they can deliver results. Look at that's pretty strong agreement there across all of the segments. That's an important consideration for clients. We prefer to work with agencies that let us take the lead with our marketing strategy and initiatives. A lot of agreement on that. Having close relationships with agency leadership outside of work leads to better marketing outcomes for my organization. That's a really interesting idea with a lot of agreement, that those kinds of social engagements actually result in better marketing outcomes. My organization would spend more with an agency that really understood our challenges and goals, and we're going to see more about this topic.
I was going to say these ideas of really get us, meaning that you have a specialization and that you really understand them. They don't feel, I think that again, across the board, they're hungry to be understood. And I know that's challenging. Sometimes you ask and ask and ask for goals and challenges, and so a lot of clients are cagey about sharing those things. But understand that even if they don't give up the information easily, they very much want you to have it.
Yep. I wish agencies showed us evidence that their strategy and tactics work. We prefer to work with agencies that need a little direction from us, agreement there, and we want to expand the work we do with our agencies. So this is the first hint of some of the good news that's coming for you guys. This is mild agreement, but as you will see as we work through this, there's a lot of appetite on the part of clients to get additional work going with you. But it needs to happen under certain conditions. Trust has to be there, and you have to be front and center in terms of talking to them about what's relevant for them. Okay, so those are the segments, and keep in mind, you're free to put something in the chat if you have a question, or you can unmute yourself and yell. As Drew will tell you, my problem is not talking, it's stopping. So speak up because I will not see your waving hand. So when you look at this landscape, I want to show you something really powerful around this sort of view of agencies. We've got the segments. This is the distribution of the segments. Here's overall, right? But here it is by budget. So this is under 250, and budgets get bigger counterintuitively to the left on this chart. Look at what happens as we get to the bigger budgets, you guys. Once we start getting to, even 3 million in budget, holy moly, vast majority of the folks, the clients dealing with in that space are going to be staff prioritizers. So that is a group you have to reconcile yourself to working with if you want to be in these sort of bigger operations. Even if you're smaller, they're going to be there. But man, they really overwhelm the distribution as we get bigger,
Right.
Drew.
Right. Well, and it makes sense because they're more likely to have an in-house team and have invested, heavily into that team. So
yeah. I would say they don't have bigger teams necessarily, or more likely to have a team, but they have a more expert team.
Yeah,
I think is what we could say. Okay, there's some good news here for additional spending for agencies. So look at the percentages here that strongly agree. So on that scale of 1 to 6, rated a 5 or 6, top 2 box percentage agreement on these statements. My organization wants to work with agencies we can build a strong relationship with over time. 81%. They want strong, stable relationships. Collaboration between our in-house marketing employees and agencies leads to better outcomes. Strong agreement. My organization trusts the guidance and recommendations our agencies provide us. 72% strongly agree with that. My organization is interested in any new services our agencies can offer us. That's not 59% saying yes, that's 59% strongly agreeing.
right.
We have the flexibility to adjust our agency spending. One of the things you're going to see is that maybe this sort of thing we tell ourselves that clients don't want to do this does not appear to be true in any sense of the word. The budget for agencies should be flexible to allow us to take advantage of additional opportunities, and we would spend more with an agency that really understood our challenges and goals. Lots of good news there. Now, it looks different by segment. Saving seekers, less likely to say almost any of these things. Relationship builders, most likely. And that's the trust that they have with their agencies built over those long, stable relationships.
Right.
Okay. Let's go through just sort of who these people are fairly quickly. Again, all this data is in the visualization. You guys can break this down any way you want to. I'll show you how to do that. But just to show you who we have, these are decision makers with respect to agencies. 81% of those in our study not only make decisions about marketing activities, but also resources and spending. The other 19%, it's spend and budget. Segments do not differ with respect to respondent age. So if you have an assumption that relationship builders are younger or, whatever, out the window. Look, everybody's the same on this. And by the way, when you look at this visualization, this is going to allow you to look at this data a whole bunch of different ways. So all I did here was just pick segment as opposed to all. So you'll be able to do the same thing. Gender doesn't differ. Okay, we're right with the population in terms of respondent. And when you go look at gender, you'll see very, very similar distribution. This is interesting. So when we look at role, those staff prioritizers, that middle group, that's the 43%, significantly less likely to say they are founder, partner, and owner. And in part because they are larger organizations. So they are less likely to be the person at the top. We could see them distributed across a whole range of titles with respect to this. A lot of these folks are fairly new to the role they have right now. Half of them have been in their current role for 6 years or less. So we have experience in terms of a current role across the board. And of course, a lot of these folks have much longer tenure in the agency business or in what they do. This is just about current role. 19% have worked in an agency. Staff prioritizers are slightly but significantly more likely than relationship builders. And you can tell significance when you want to see if something's significantly different. So outside the margin of error, just click one of these buttons. And if another button lights up, that's a statistically significant difference. It may be a very small difference outside the margin of error, but it is significant. This button didn't light up because it's not different significantly from this response. So a very easy way for you to sort of assess what you're looking at. Let's look at their organization characteristics. So we've got folks across the board with respect to industry. It's so funny, whenever we ask like an industry question, a bunch of people say other and then tell you something that's already on the list, which has happened here too. But we have a wide distribution. Segments don't differ with respect to industry. This is based on, years ago, Drew and I did this study and we identified sort of our first study, I think, Drew, 10
You're
years.
right. Yep. 10 years ago.
And one of the segments we identified was this looking for love client segment. And when we put these respondents against those characteristics, 80% of the relationship builders say they are a looking for love type of client. So if this is ringing a bell for you and you've been following the Agency Edge, this is a group that we've seen consistently for a really long time. Lots of years in business for these organizations. 41% say it's more than 15 years. We have a range of employee size for these organizations. It's worth noting, one of the other reasons that savings seekers are a little problematic and looking for budget savings is that they're significantly more likely to say they have fewer than 10 employees in their organization.
And again, as you can see, the delta gets bigger in that middle section between the, relationship folks and the staff prioritizers.
Yep.
After you get to a much larger organization, they kind of collapse back down.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Here's revenue for folks under $1 million up to 500. We have segments in all of the revenue brackets, but again, here are the savings seekers, much more likely to have under $1 million in revenue. Only 25%, half as many of the staff prioritizers are at that level. But again, if you were thinking that all the staff prioritizers are big bucks, they are not.
Right.
And even savings seekers are in these very high revenue level situations. So you can't just assume it's the little guys who may be a savings seeker type of person, although it's a little more likely for sure.
As always, I think with our studies, it's, what we find is you can't walk into a room and just pick these people out, right?
Yep.
By age, by size, by gender, by whatever. That really is about listening, asking the right questions, and watching both their attitudes and their behavior, the questions they ask you back. But hopefully, as always, what this research does is it gives you the questions to ask and the clues to look for.
Yeah, absolutely. And thinking about content, if you're putting out content and you're trying to get staff prioritizers versus relationship builders or something, you want to talk about different things, I think, that they prioritize. No difference in segment between B2B, B2C, government. So that's not a thing either. In-house marketing departments, 62% of them have an in-house marketing department. No significant difference between the segments. So that's just a thing for almost 2/3 of our respondents. The number of folks they have in that department, for 52%, it's only 1 or 2 people. And then I think we've got it here by segment. Yeah. Staff prioritizers significantly more likely, look at this, to have a larger marketing department in-house. So here, the only 33% of those folks have a 1 or 2 person department. So it is bigger. You're right, Drew, in addition to being more expertise. Not more likely to have a department, but more likely to have a bigger department and a more expert department. These are what their marketing budgets look like. Again, here's the under 250K, and we can see staff prioritizers really more likely to distribute across higher marketing budgets. Just a reminder, when you're looking at marketing budget, you can look at it by, how big their organization is, or geography, or a lot of these other decisions if you want to sort of hone in on budget. Oh, our number of agencies question, Drew. 53% of respondents work with one or more, with more than one agency. Okay, so half of our folks, and this is really consistent with what we've been seeing over the last few years.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how big they are. Even the small ones, many are working with more than one agency. So that's just part of our reality.
Yeah, I think not only do we have to learn to play nice with in-house departments, we have got to learn how to play nice with other agencies. And I will say that I think, we did this presentation for AMI members earlier in the week. And one of the things we talked about is, when you are part of a community of agencies where you have connections with other agencies, one of the things that we're seeing, not only in our research, but in the other work that we're doing at AMI, is one of the trends is clients are tired of managing all their agencies. They really want a lead agency that comes in with other agency partners, acknowledging that it's pretty tough for any agency to have everything under one roof today, but they want you to bring the partners in and for you to manage them. And so when you have an alliance or an affinity with other agencies where they're not going to throw you under the bus, they're not going to try and steal your clients, you can be in a very powerful position for clients who know they need more than one agency with a depth of expertise in certain deliverables or whatever it may be, but they want someone else to manage it. That can be you if you come in with a team built of, boy, we're the PR agency, but we've got a brand agency and we have an SEO agency, or however that mix is for that particular client based on what you already do in-house, can be a really powerful differentiator for you.
For sure. Just a reminder, guys, here's the 250 and under 250 to 500,000 and under 250. These are the smallest budgets in our respondent group. And look at the percentages that are working with multiple agencies. Now they're clustering around 1 to 3, but there's still a good chunk of these folks, almost half of them, they're working with more than one agency. So
Yeah. Charles is just saying, hey, looking for some tips on how to play nice with in-house departments, especially in the $1 to $5 million companies where the person's sort of bent on making a mark and being in control, but has no clues. So I will tell you that there is a finesse in educating a client without them feeling like you're educating them. And this is a place where your AEs or some of your senior people can really play a role. But part of it is recognizing they do want to make a mark. And actually, if you can make them look like the rock star, they will take you with them as they move up the food chain, and they will fight for you and protect you when the powers that be want to make a change. And so a lot of it is, recognizing, saying things like, you know what, Drew, hey, we found this great piece of research. It's probably not, the results are probably not going to surprise you, but I think for the rest of your team, it might be really insightful. We'd be happy to do a webinar, or I can just send it over to you. Let me know what you would prefer. I think it's doing a lot of, we know you know this because you're so smart, but maybe your sales department or maybe another part of your team or your junior folks would benefit from this information, or from us coming in and doing a lunch and learn or whatever. You sort of have to teach them. Honestly, it's the same thing for any of you that work in the medical field. It's the same thing, same way you talk to doctors, right? I know you know about this new drug, but your nurses would probably like to hear blah, 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 blah. Same sort of ego play.
Yeah, it's worth keeping in mind. One of the problems our clients are trying to solve is looking good inside their organizations.
Yeah.
So yeah, how can we help with that? For sure. This is great information. 43% of our respondents say they plan to rely on agencies more over the next 2 years. Hardly any less. 45% say about the same. And so that's really good. And what do they want to be doing over the next 2 years? A whole bunch of stuff. They could choose all but apply on this list. And you can see online advertising and marketing strategies, social media up here at the top. But man, they have a lot on their list of things that they want to be doing in the next 2 years. Relationship builders often more likely to say they want to be doing a bunch of this stuff. Worth noting. Okay, let's talk about their budget for agencies. We asked how they budget right now. They set a fixed dollar amount in 72% of the cases. Okay. 33% are setting a fixed percentage of revenue, and a very small percentage say they do not establish a budget at all. And this is true regardless of segment. So about 2/3 of the time, you're looking at a fixed dollar amount set for agencies, and the other third, maybe a fixed percentage of revenue.
But you're going to see very quickly that the word fixed has a fluidity in it, right?
Right. So 60% of these folks say that they evaluate results and opportunities regularly and adjust the budget. And 20% say their agency budget can be increased as needed based on opportunities they find. So that is a combined 80% who have flexibility in their budget to change it. And it doesn't require waiting for an annual reset or any of that kind of stuff. As you'll see, they will do it when the right opportunities come along.
They have,
Only
a lot more
think.
fluidity than they make it sound to us.
Yeah.
There's a lot more flexibility, and you're going to see they're surprised that we don't ask for that money more often. And we'll talk about that as we get to that data, but
For sure.
it is, there are opportunities to be had that we're not taking advantage of.
Yep. And segments are not different on this question, you guys. So whether you're dealing with relationship builders or staff prioritizers, saving seekers, it may be a little different based on your niche. If you've got government stuff and it's big RFP, they may not have as much flexibility, but overall they do. And here's proof. Have you ever increased an agency budget allocation mid-year? 59% have done that. 59% have actually made that change. Relationship builders significantly more likely to have done so, although it's a majority of all of the segments. So this is just a story I think we need to stop telling ourselves, Drew.
Yeah.
Why did you increase budget? I love this question. So We saw success in a particular marketing activity and elected to spend more on it. They could pick any on this list and multiple. We launched new products or services. We identified an opportunity we couldn't pass up that required more funds. Adapting to seasonal changes, identifying a new audience. Look at 22%, the agency proposed something that we chose to pursue. Like very small percentages are reacting to some sort of competitive threat. It's really about opportunity to either make more, do more of something that's working, or to try something new that seems to present an opportunity.
And I think you got to look at that top answer and recognize, and I've been harping on this for a while. Clients are, and rightfully so, clients are asking us to prove the value of what we do for them. And so when we can show them that there's an ROI, it was the number one reason why they are like, oh, that's working. I guess I should throw a little more gasoline on that fire.
Yep.
I'm going to give you some more budget. So the more we build success metrics into our work, and the more we get in front of those clients and talk about what's working and what's not, and where we think the puck is going next and all of that, the more likely we are to get money. But also that we shouldn't wait for them to say, oh, I should invest more. They also said, the agency said we should spend more money. So we did. So
Yeah.
This is where your AEs who behave like order takers are literally costing you money every day. They have to be able to have good business conversations with your clients. They have to understand it's their job to understand how to grow their client's business, which will grow your business with the client. And any AE who does not get that, that's not held to growing their book of business, they don't, if your AEs don't know how much AGI they're managing and they're not tracking that it's growing over the course of the year, you are leaving money on the table.
Yep. A couple quick things I want to point out here from a segment standpoint. Relationship builders are more likely to do it for any of these top reasons, but also look at this. They are nearly twice as likely to say they did something because the agency proposed it, which is really powerful, I think. And then staff prioritizers, look at them popping out here. We increased to pursue ideas for conferences or events we attended. We're going to talk about that again with this group.
Right.
And also a little more likely to do things because competitors are presenting threats, increasing marketing activity. So just something to be aware of with respect to that. All right, let's talk about agency relationships. You know, we consistently see a lot of folks saying they're using an agency regularly for project work. Here's an agency serving as our marketing department. Instrumental in our business strategy and annual marketing planning, more likely to be relationship builders, saying that that is happening. Agency of record continues to be sort of a smaller and smaller piece of the pie, Drew.
Yeah. I think as many of you are finding, that phrase makes clients a little wonky. And so you may be their lead agency. You might be, if in the rare case, you might be their only agency, but even if they are a client who gives you money every week, every day, every month, and even if they sign a retainer, they don't like the phrase agency of record. And so that's probably one we need to just mothball and let it go, that it is really challenging. And they feel very trapped when we sort of force that upon them. So again, I think many of you can get to a retainer relationship, an annual contract or better. I'm not saying that. It's really about the semantics of language.
Yeah, totally. Speaking of language, so we started asking folks to think about their best agency, understanding that they have multiple ones. And we did not define that for them. We let them define that. And we asked how long had they worked with their best agency. For a lot of them, it's 3 years or less. So it doesn't necessarily take very long to become a client's best agency, which is good to know. On the other hand, have you ended a relationship with an agency in the last 2 years? 19% have done that. And that's across all segments. We asked sort of roles and the role hoped for with agencies, and they're fairly consistent in the most case. I mean, a strategic partner, integrated services, my marketing department. It looks like they're getting what they want to see, but relationship builders are more likely to have that strategic partner expectation. This is the types of agencies that they're using. Do you remember that we saw those relationship builders saying they want to do more stuff in the next 2 years? Well, they also work with more different types of agencies than anybody else does. How would you rate your experience with your best agency? 31% say excellent, 46% say very good. Of course, we would like that excellent to be higher, but you know, to be their best agency, you got to at least be doing pretty darn well. This is great. 35% of these folks plan to continue working with their best agency for at least 5 more years. And among relationship builders, it's 49% saying that. So if you can get them thinking about you as their best agency in terms of the quality of your recommendations and your work and how connected you are with their organization and stuff, you're engendering some loyalty that's going to serve you well. We asked folks how their agencies are collaborating with them, you know, what kinds of things are happening. So obviously, you know, video conferencing and email is fine here. Here's Google Docs, co-working. 31% say they're in-person meetings outside of the office. Some have, you know, bonding events with their between their employees and their agency's employees. But when we look at this, saving seekers are much less likely to have any access to these kinds of things. And relationship builders in particular are popping out on some of these things at the top.
And again, this bonding events, you know, 20%, remember that particularly the staff prioritizers want us to have a better relationship. In fact, they called it personal relationship.
Yes.
With their team members. And so don't get discouraged if the clients poo-poo that sort of thing. Honestly, a lot of times what they're afraid of is that you're going to bill them for the party of 20 people. So, you know, again, this may be an investment on your part to create social outings or activities or collaboration events or even learning together. I think later we'll talk about the fact that one of the things that they're hungry for is for you, in many cases, the agency owner, to show up at conferences and trade shows with them. It's a great thing for your AEs to do too. In our AE boot camps, we're constantly talking to AEs about there are very few things that are better than going to a conference or a trade show with a client. Sometimes we have to make that investment of time and energy to spend the time to create that relationship. We can't always charge the client for all of that. And so keep that in mind as we keep going through.
For sure. Do you trust your best agency strategic recommendations? Sorry, not even your best agencies, but everybody's? Yes. A lot of trust here, 42% absolute trust. That's big. And 51% to some degree. And when we look at it by segment, you know, here's the relationship builders out here being like, yes, yes, yes. Anything you tell me to do, I will do it. I absolutely believe you.
God love those people.
I know it. So this one's interesting. 55% say their agencies absolutely care about whether their organization reaches its goals. This is a number I think we can all agree should be much higher than it is, especially since it ran through so many of the attitudinal threads about what clients are looking for. And for relationship builders, that's 78%. They know their agency cares about what they're trying to achieve as an organization, not just their marketing goals, but where they are trying to go. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to do a better job with folks like the staff prioritizers on showing that we actually care about that happening. What kind of problems has your agency solved for you? A whole bunch, right? Like there's just a lot in here that agency clients credit agencies as doing. And relationship builders are the most likely to say things like brand identity differentiation, gaining expertise their internal team lacks, that their agencies are doing for them. So again, really core problems that agencies can help our clients solve are on the top of the list here. How often do your agencies ask you for feedback? So this is how often we are asking them for feedback. You could see There's a lot of once a quarter or once every month. And this is their expectation of how often we will ask for that. And it's very consistent across the board.
Overall, the good news is, and I find this interesting. Overall, the good news is they want to talk to us more and have us share more with them. And
Yeah.
yet I know half of you are going, Drew, my clients, I can't even get them on the phone. I can't get them. I would buy them the best steak dinner on the planet. I can't get them to agree to that. So I will say this does require some persistence. And it may require
Creativity.
going up a level higher or lower to start those things, because it may be a person rather than an entire team that is just not interested in it. But overall, they do want more interaction with us, and they do want more of your time and your energy. So I think that's great news. We just got to figure out how to get it to them.
Yep.
When they make us feel like they don't want to make the time.
Right. The most important qualities in agencies: creativity, flexibility, communication skills, right up here at the top. Not as surprising as maybe we should, that we've seen this before. Luckily, humility is very low at 13%, so we don't have that to worry about very much. And relationship builders, they have a high bar for agencies, man. They have been spoiled by the agencies that they've worked with over a long period of time to really expect a lot of things from their agencies in terms of critical thinking and open-mindedness and ethics and creativity and all of those kinds of stuff. So they have if you've got relationship builders, know that they have very high expectations of you.
But I think it's also because they're open to more relationships. And so we get to show our true selves in a sort of in a more full way. I mean, I think most agencies are those things, but we don't always get the chance to prove it.
Right.
Yeah.
So characteristics of an ideal agency for these clients. Now, not surprising, this always happens. If we put 100% satisfaction guarantee on the list, 54% of them want that. But look what else is at the top of the list: specialized marketing expertise, a portfolio including clients in our industry, and a full range of marketing services. And that's all above pricing. And it seems sort of like a dichotomy here to have, well, specialized marketing expertise and clients in my industry and a full range of services. But I think what it means is that they want agencies with a real niche in terms of who they're serving and their specialty, but they also want to be able to really use an agency for a lot of things around that and a lot of different services and offerings. And I know you have some thoughts on that, Drew.
Yeah, I've been beating the niche bandwagon for a long time, as all of you know. I have a strong opinion about that because I'm seeing what agencies, we see the finances of all the agencies we work with. I know who's making money and who isn't and who's struggling, but they do, and this gets back to my earlier point, they do want an agency that can bring them a full range of services. I don't believe that means you have to do all of it. I believe it means you have to have the partnerships and alliances so that they don't have to figure all of that out. They want us to be able to help them figure it out. But, and we've seen this, Susan, in the last probably 5 or 6 years of research.
Yep.
Clients put a great emphasis and priority and value on an agency that truly gets them. They all think, and whether it's true or not, they all think that their industry, their specialty is unique, and you need to have a depth of knowledge around that, or they have to teach you their business. They don't want to do that. And so again, those of you that have niched down in some way, some area of specialty, are having a more fruitful time than the agencies that are still generalists.
Yep.
And you're seeing why right here.
Relationship builders more likely to be interested in a lot of these things. Values. Also, be aware, agency leadership involved in day-to-day operations. 42% say that is part of an ideal agency for those relationship builders. I also want to point out that things like being a well-known thought leader, which is the other drum you are consistently banging, Drew, significantly more likely to be selected than things like awards. So just keep in mind, as you play with this, that they do have some high expectations of us. Terms they like: creative, full service, strategic, results driven, innovative. If you're calling your agency not your typical agency, you should just stop right now before the weekend. Do that immediately, please. Let's see. Yeah, and just some segment data. Again, high standards on the part of those relationship builders. Okay. How important is it if you're going to do continued work with an agency, how important is it for the agency to offer all these things? And this is a 1 to 6 scale. This is very important in the 6. Look at number 1. Understanding our goals and objectives consistent with quality, just a baseline thing like quality, regular communication, return on investment, competitive pricing, regular reporting. There's values alignment. There's a whole bunch of stuff that is really, really important on this list. And if we look at it as from a top 2 box standpoint, and we look at it by segment, we can certainly see who has the highest expectations here, but these are big, big numbers for all of the segments in terms of top 2 box importance. Note here on the staff prioritizers, a personal relationship with agency leadership and personal relationships with agency employees. They do want you all up in their business and vice versa.
Yep.
What kind of impact does the opinion of the agency have? So, sorry, what would positively impact an opinion of an agency? So we gave them all these things and said, if an agency had this, is this positive impact for your opinion, negative impact for your opinion? So project assets ahead of schedule, not surprisingly, that's positive. Owner schedules a meeting with me to understand what improvements they could make. Look at that number. Providing a document that outlines what my organization can expect from working with them, shares the agency's project goals with my organization, schedules weekly check-ins with us, affordable templated services, offers new services. 64% say that would positively impact the opinion of an agency. So that's not a downside. In-person meetings, ask for formal feedback. Schedules a values alignment conversation as part of its onboarding, sending a gift package. So this is a lot of stuff to look at. How well is your agency doing these kinds of things? Because it does positively impact the opinion of clients.
And again, you'll get all this visualized.
You're going to get all of this. Yep. Relationship builders, again, a high bar. How often do you want in-depth reports from agencies? Pretty often, you guys. Look at this. Every month, certainly. Weekly, you bet. Daily, okay. And the staff prioritizers want it more frequently. So we have to figure out a way to give them frequent things that they perceive as being in-depth. And maybe that means chopping it up into smaller pieces and focusing on one thing instead of covering 10 things in the monthly report that you're doing. But they do want a lot of reporting. All right.
This flies in the face of, I hear you guys say all the time, we send them these reports, they don't even look. We've got to find a way to engage with them and walk them through it. And this is part of the AE's job, is to figure out how to present the data in the way that the client can and will consume it.
Yep.
Because they do want the data. They may not want it the way we're presenting it, but they do want the data.
They do want it.
Got a couple things in the chat, so hold on. Let me see what that is. Oh,
thank God. Chris just says, thank God. Maybe that's about things they could think positively of. All right, so we're down the barrel here, you guys. Last of this bit. 39% of respondents say their organization purchased additional services from their agencies in the last year. And that is very consistent, especially between relationship builders and staff prioritizers. That's a big number. Why did you do it? Why did you buy something? Okay, we were launching a new product or service. We needed additional resources, a fresh new approach. An agency approached us with a new service. We learned from customer or audience research or prospects who would resonate with the service. We want to expand our relationship with the agency. Like, lots of good reasons on their part to do this. And some of it's just asking for it, or learning from some kind of research that you've done, that there's something they should be doing that would do well, seeing another organization, experiencing success. So if you are not sharing what's happening with other organizations that you think your clients should be doing, this is a good idea, especially if they're a staff prioritizer. And again, with the staff prioritizers, we learned something from a thought leader, or we learned about a potential service at a conference or seminar. Those numbers are relatively small compared to some of them, but you could see they're pretty consistent with what the staff prioritizers are looking for. And I think, like you said, Drew, a really nice opportunity.
Yeah.
When do you want your agency to approach you with new spending options? Look at this. During regular check-ins, during strategy conversations, in a proposal, during biz dev conversations, during annual planning, during project work, when asking for feedback, during onboarding. 24% want you to offer new services when you're onboarding for something they've just signed for. That's big. Lots of opportunities that they say, hey, if you've got something we should be hearing, bring it, bring it, bring it, bring it. And of course, relationship builders leading that, but still very good percentages from your other clients. How is the decision process made for buying those? 36% say leadership is deciding what services we need to purchase, but a lot of them say either my organization is collaborating with agencies or we wait for our agency to recommend services to us. I think this is just the segment thing. Look how consistent that is in terms of how decisions are made. And the likelihood of purchasing new services from your best agency. Extremely likely, very likely. 94% of respondents said they would be at least somewhat likely to purchase a new service pitched by their best agency. Big deal. Okay, and at the end here, there's a couple of charts. One of them that is my favorite is looking at all of the attitudes that we had in that list that we use for the segments, but looking at them on a top 2 box agreement percentage, because you can really see the gap between these folks in terms of the extent to which they agree with either any of the attitudes, or you can look at just the attitudes for a segment. So that's in the visualization for you. So I know we've got only a minute left, Drew. Anything you want to wrap up with? You guys are getting this visualization lickety split, so you can play with it. Anything else, Drew?
No, other than I just think some really good news. So if you guys have questions now that you've seen the data, we can pause for a second and see if you have some questions to ask us. But we'll send you the visualization so you can do what Susan was doing, clicking on the right side and moving the data and all of that. You will get the deck by a couple things. You'll get the video recording. Let me try this again. I'm going to build a page and I'm going to have the video recording of this and the link to the visualization. So you'll get a link. The way you're going to do that is it's going to be in the newsletter. So if you don't subscribe to the newsletter, you can go down and go to the AMI website, and down at the very bottom, it says our weekly newsletter. You can subscribe there, and we'll share it in the Facebook group, the podcast Facebook group as well. Mm-hmm. And if you don't go to either of those places, then I don't know how you found out to be here in the first place, but you're welcome to just email me and I'll send you the link individually if that's easier. But if you get it in one of the other 2 places, please do not email me, because then I have to answer, 100 emails as opposed to just putting it in the newsletter and in the podcast group on Facebook. But if you're not in either of those places, you have no intention of being in those places, in fact, you have shunned both of those places, then just send me an email and I'll send it.
And if you do have questions about working with the visualization, just let me know.
Was there an industry breakdown?
There is a broad industry breakdown. So sort of services or manufacturing or some of those kinds of things. You'll see that in this visualization. It's up here in the respondent or in the organization characteristics setup right there. So service, retail, manufacturing, education, et cetera.
So pretty broad, but a little bit. Yeah,
pretty broad.
Yeah. All right. Great. Any questions for us?
I don't see any questions, just a lot of thank you. And it's been encouraging, which I love hearing that because we felt the same way.
Yep.
And how can I get it? And how fast can I get it?
Yeah, it'll be the end of next week with the holidays. So it'll be in next Wednesday's newsletter if I can get it done that quickly, which is my goal. So figure mid to late next week for sure.
Yep. This weekend is the best time to read, Nicholas says, so.
Now, my wife disagrees with me, Nicholas. She believes that I should not work this weekend. So we're about to get on a plane.
I think that's a good,
It
thanks,
may be
everybody.
very scary, but believe me, I'm just going to follow her instructions. So
Great. And we're going to be sharing a lot of this content and blog posts and stuff like that over the course of the next year. So there'll be a lot more coming out about this with Drew's perspective and stuff. So thanks for joining us today, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful holiday weekend.
thanks, everybody.
Bye.